This is Vilnius, the capital of Lithuania, one of 3 Baltic states on NATO's front line. Their position brings both strategic strength and huge vulnerability.
Дорогие друзья,
And this is the reason. Lithuanians fear that for Vladimir Putin, Ukraine is just the appetizer, and they could be next.
This small country is gearing up. They are building defences, they are boosting conscription, and they're also hosting NATO troops. So over the next few days, I'm going to meet some of the people standing guard here and hear the message they want to send to us back in Britain, that we too shouldn't be complacent.
Lithuania is a country of around 3 million people. To the east is Kaliningrad, a Russian exclave on the Baltic Sea, bristling with troops, ballistic missiles, air defense systems, and electronic warfare. To the west is the Russian proxy state of Belarus, ruled since 1994 by Moscow's puppet dictator, Viktor Lukashenko. So what does this border with Russia look like? A couple of hours' drive from Vilnius, and signs for Kaliningrad start to appear. Until it was renamed by the Soviets in 1946, this was the German region of Königsberg. Around the size of Wales, it's home to 1 million Russians, and its warm water port is the main base for Russia's Baltic fleet. The Lithuanian town of Kybartai is now the only vehicle route in and out of Kaliningrad. Here, the border service escort us into the crossing point.
Some white teeth.
On the other side, stacked up, are dozens of Russian trucks heading for Belarus. The Lithuanian authorities have clamped down on cargo traffic from Kaliningrad as part of EU sanctions on both Moscow and Minsk. Less than 100 trucks a day are now allowed to cross. Also here, should they be needed, a stack of dragon's teeth, concrete anti-tank obstacles that can be quickly dragged into place to close a crossing. The Red Army conquered Königsberg in April 1945 after 4 days of bitter urban fighting. A year later, as part of the Potsdam Agreement, the territory was formally given to the Soviet Union. The remaining German population was expelled and replaced by Russians. During the Cold War, the Soviets transformed it into a key military outpost. But since the collapse of the USSR, it's been geographically cut off. And at Kybartai's railway station is a daily reminder of that isolation.
This passenger train is travelling from Kaliningrad to Moscow. There's about 8 or so of these every single day. It's a journey of around 18 hours or so. And inside are hundreds of Russian passengers. But they're not allowed to get out of the train here in Lithuania. There are border guards patrolling the platform. Only when the train crosses into Belarus can they actually dismount and step outside of this train.
Called the Yantar Express, a ticket for this 650-mile train journey costs $50, less than half the price of a flight. On the platform, border guards patrol up and down, watching for anyone who tries to escape. The doors and windows are sealed, and the bathrooms are only open when the train is moving. Only if a passenger falls seriously ill are they allowed to get off. In 2024, the Baltic states and Poland signed a letter urging the EU to fund a €2.5 billion defensive line along their borders with Russia and Belarus. In places, it'll be 30 miles deep. To get through it, the Russians would need to penetrate 3 miles of anti-tank ditches, minefields and fortified trenches. The next 10 miles consists of drainage ditches, with every bridge primed for demolition. The Lithuanians would also fell trees across the roads to slow down any Russian vehicles that got this far. Lithuania's defense ministry plans to install 11,600 dragon's teeth, 4,500 hedgehogs and 450 miles of razor wire by the end of 2027. The Lithuanian town of Suwałki is just 20 miles from the border with Kaliningrad Oblast. Here, Martynas Romaitis is the civil servant in charge of implementing this defensive plan. He also oversees the civil defense measures in this district, including the evacuation plan for civilians should Russian troops invade.
We very worried, all Lithuania worried. We don't know how to react. This defense went to the roof. Money aspect went to the roof. 5 billion euros per year. So that's in Lithuanian scale. That is very, very big money. My message is very clear. I think UK also need to be prepared and support the little ones, countries like us, like Latvia, Estonia. We are Europe.
Stop, Mina! Stop, Mina!
Lithuania isn't just relying on dragon's teeth and ditches, though. Alongside the country's 23,000-strong regular army, several thousand young Lithuanians are conscripted each year, spending up to 9 months in the military. Alongside them, other young men and women volunteer to serve. At a training centre in Mariampole, in the centre of the country, I met a group of teenagers in basic training, and among them, a real-life band of brothers. 11 teenagers from Vilnius, friends since nursery school, who decided to volunteer together to protect their country.
It's not really a complicated thing. We were a big group of friends, and when the first guy signed up, he sort of encouraged the others. We just liked the idea that we could do this together. The most important thing is that when you see what's happening in the world, you want to defend your country. You want to be part of that defense.
I remember one day very vividly. I was at home, and there was some news about the war in Ukraine. My dad said something about how he'd have to defend the country with my brother, and my mom would have to fly away and take me with her. The idea that they would defend the country without me just seemed really unacceptable. I felt in my heart that I also had to join.
So if these young Lithuanians did ever have to fight Russia, where might it happen? There's various theories, but one area has long been talked about as a prime candidate. I'm heading south along the Via Baltica, a new 600-mile motorway linking Poland with the Baltic states. On the border between Lithuania and Poland is an area a former commander of the US Army in Europe, Lieutenant General Ben Hodges, called NATO's Achilles heel. This is the so-called Suwałki Gap, named after the Polish city of Suwałki, just inside the border with Lithuania. The term was coined a decade ago by Estonia's then president to describe the narrow 40-mile corridor between Kaliningrad and Belarus. The area itself is mostly farmland, a rolling terrain of hills, lakes and rivers. But this small corridor is also the only land route NATO would have to reinforce the Baltic states if Russia attacked. If it's blocked, then Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia are effectively cut off.
So how would Russia go about seizing the Suwałki Gap? Well, military commanders here in Lithuania worry about one scenario more than any other: a coordinated assault from two directions.
If Russia ever tried to take the Suwałki Gap, it's unlikely it would look like a classic invasion. It would start with massive cyber attacks, GPS jamming, cellular outages, and waves of disinformation to paralyze decision-making and slow NATO's response. From Kaliningrad, Russia could deploy long-range air defenses, missiles and electronic warfare systems designed to make NATO air operations risky and delay reinforcements. On the ground, Russian forces could drive from opposite sides in a fast pincer movement, trying to link up before NATO could fully mobilize. Light armour, airborne units and mechanised troops would try and seize key roads, bridges and junctions. The strategy wouldn't be to hold on forever, it would be to create a sudden, ugly fait accompli before NATO could react, and then dare the alliance to try and reverse it. So what is NATO doing to protect this eastern flank and dissuade Vladimir Putin from trying anything like that? An hour's drive northeast from Vilnius and you reach Pobrade, a vast training area just 10 miles from the border with Belarus. Here I met up with a German mechanised infantry battalion. Around 700 German troops are now based here, the lead nation for a 1,400-strong NATO multinational battle group. But by 2027, that number is going to dramatically increase. Berlin intends to boost the size of this brigade to 5,000 troops, including mechanised infantry and a tank battalion equipped with Leopard 2s. The current Enhanced Forward Presence, or EFP, battle group in Lithuania will be incorporated into this brigade, which will be commanded by a German officer.
Yeah, I mean, we're here for 6 months, so we try to exploit the opportunity to be here and have all these capabilities on hand on a battalion level, and therefore we focus on our mission, which is to be combat ready at any given moment, and we train and exercise to remain combat ready on a high level.
In March 1990, after the fall of the Berlin Wall, Lithuania became the first republic to break away from the Soviet Union. A year later, Russian troops and KGB agents staged an attempted coup to try and overthrow Lithuania's newly elected government. 14 Lithuanians were killed and 700 injured as they fought off Russian troops, and the Kremlin's plan eventually failed. One of the groups that stood against that attempted coup was the Lithuanian Riflemen's Union. Founded in 1919, this volunteer paramilitary organisation supports the country's armed forces. Members are allowed to bear arms, and if the country was invaded, they'd protect key infrastructure and harass the enemy. In recent years, they've also become specialists in drone warfare.
We have Russian tanks 50 kilometers, 40 miles from our homes. We built a nice country. We built a nice environment for our kids and our grandsons and granddaughters, and we are ready to protect this country. We understand probably we will be dead in the very first days of a war, but this is our duty for our country, and we are ready to do it.
The Riflemen's Union fought a guerrilla war against the Soviets, with thousands of its members sent to gulags in Siberia. When Lithuania gained independence in 1990, the union was revived, and since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, it's grown rapidly. It now has 14,000 members of all ages, from cadets to men in their 80s.
So we do get some basic military training. We do learn what to do in case of an event, or a day X as we call it. We learn how to survive, how to use weapons, how to work in a team, how to lead people, and we do get another family, I would say.
I'm very sorry, my English very bad.
In his early 20s, Justus Mikolaitis was conscripted into the Soviet army. Now aged 69, this biker with a fondness for daily cold water swims has taken up arms again.
Mano, trys dėdės.
My 3 uncles all died as freedom fighters, and our family is very patriotic.
Patriotinį. Tiek mano žmona, tiek.
My wife and my children are really supportive of what I'm doing, and they are strong patriots themselves.
Yra šios šalies patriotai.
From Mariupol, it was time to head south down the Via Baltica again and cross the border into Poland and head for a meeting with this region's other defenders, the British Army. 25 miles inside Poland and strategically close to both the Suwałki Gap and the Via Baltica motorway is Bemowo-Piski training area. This is a base for what NATO calls its Forward Land Forces Battle Group, part of a US-led multinational brigade.
Stairs up, stairs down!
Along with American, Croatian and Belgian units, a company of British soldiers are also deployed to this Polish base on a 6-month rotation. And at the moment it's the turn of the 2nd Battalion, the Royal Anglian Regiment, known in the British Army as the Poachers. After recent drone incursions and sabotage attempts, Poland is on a state of high alert, a threat level these British soldiers are all too aware of.
Yeah, I think with my own interactions with them, I think there's no ability to misconstrue the seriousness in which they're taking the threat to their country, and they really do see themselves as the eastern flank of NATO, and they're more than prepared to defend their homeland as required. It's a real message that we can pass on to our soldiers, that we are here to do a role, and sort of a role that the British infantry hasn't had to do for an extended period.
From Poland, we return to Vilnius, and here a chance to see how ordinary Lithuanians are answering their nation's call. In Vingis Park, not far from the city centre, 500 men and women from all walks of life are being sworn in as new members of the Lithuanian Riflemen's Union. Across the country, membership has surged so fast, it's struggled to keep up with the number of people wanting to join.
Now, they might wear military uniform, but these men and women are not soldiers. They are becoming what they call dignified defenders, part of a growing number of Lithuanians who can see and feel the growing threat their country faces and want to play their part in protecting their homeland.
Make a decision. Don't be passive. Don't watch everything from the sidelines. This is a difficult time for our country. The geopolitical situation is very unclear, and in some countries, human values are shifting. We have one goal during peacetime, to prepare for the defense of Lithuania, and in times of war, if it comes, we will join the armed forces and fight against our enemy. Once again, thank you so much for everything you do.
So will this be the corner of Europe where Russia and NATO go to war? It's a question only Vladimir Putin truly knows the answer to, and there are many who think it's unlikely. Russia's ambitions curbed by the disaster of Ukraine and NATO's overwhelming firepower. But Lithuanians know their history, and it leaves little room for trust. Not only do they fear Russia, they also worry that NATO could dither, and so they plan, practice and prepare for something they hope never comes, to be ready if it does. Thanks for watching. For more from BFBS Forces News, like and subscribe to our channel.